4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, Instagram, or Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. I got Stuart Kovacs. I got Moist Mike rocking and rolling with me. Coming up 20 minutes from now, Adam Grossbard, Rams writer for the LA Daily News, is going to stop by. We will have our final NFL preview team. We will cover all 32 after we cross off the Rams. And then coming up in studio, I don't know how we booked this guy, but he's going to join us each and every Wednesday in football season. Ryan Hot Take Hickey makes his triumphant return to the Zach Gelb Show at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Stu, I'm a man of integrity. I have an admission to make right out of the gate. I was doing my local hit on one of my favorite radio shows, Hockman and Crowder with Solana on 560 WQAM, which is, of course, an Odyssey station, and I go on there each and every week. And they asked me, because they know I'm a big food guy, and I'm a foodie, and I live in New York, so I have the world literally right in the palm of my hand. And they asked me, what are you eating coming up for the first football game of the season, which will commence tomorrow evening? Yes, we are one day away, with the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I had such a lame answer. Because during the week, I try to eat healthy. And then on the weekends, knowing I'm sitting on my couch, college football Saturday, sitting on my couch watching NFL games on Sundays, that's when I will pig out. And I sounded like such a loser when I said I'm going to air fry some chicken sausage and put it in a bowl with lettuce, tomatoes, and feta cheese. That is such a weak, lame move for the first football game of the season. And I know, and this is why I'm being fair, if Stu came into the studio and said, hey, for the first football game of the season, I'm having a chicken sausage, tomato, feta cheese salad, I would have eviscerated you. I would have slammed you, and I would have said, come on, you got to get wings, you got to get pizza, you got to get nachos, hot dogs, hamburgers, like I would have said you have to have something really good. So I have to ask you now, Stu, with all that being said, what are you doing tomorrow? Because that's on everyone's mind right now. It's okay, you got to get your survivor picks in, you got to finish up your fantasy football lineups, you got to place all your bets, and then the great part about football is centered around food as well, and sometimes family. But forget about the family part, just the football and the food. In the Kovacs estate, in the palatial estate tomorrow, what are you guys doing for dinner when you have Lamar Jackson doing battle with Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City? How about those Chiefs?
So before we went to Maine over the weekend, we went to Trader Joe's a couple days before, and we bought a bunch of like their frozen types of foods. So we have like quesadillas, empanadas, some kind of egg rolls. I forget what kind.
Okay. I love a pork egg roll.
Yeah.
Tough to find these days.
I don't think it's pork. I think it's either chicken or beef. The orange chicken. So there's like I don't know exactly if we're making all those things or some of them on Sunday, some of them tomorrow, but we're going to have some combination of like a kind of a smorgasbord of food that's not very good for you.
Yeah, it's so lame. And I'm not even saying yours was like an all-star lineup.
No.
But your food looks like the 85 Bears, and my food item for a football Thursday is like the winless Browns or the winless Detroit Lions or the Saints way back when, where they would wear paper bags, the fans on their heads, and it would be the Aints. That's really my meal compared to Stu's meal. That's what it is. Now, Friday, I am making up for it because I have a lot of friends from Philadelphia that now live in the city. So we're going to this place called Wogie's, which is a Philadelphia sports bar in New York, which is pretty much like adjacent to my apartment. and pretty damn close. And we have a table there to watch the Eagles and the Packers in Brazil. And that's when I'm going to have some wings and a Philly cheesesteak and some waffle fries as well. So I am just punting and waiting a day to really do what men do best, and that's eat a ridiculous amount of food centered around football. But it really feels un-American, if I'm being honest, that Zach Gelb is having a grilled or an air-fried chicken sausage salad with feta cheese and tomato and balsamic vinaigrette dressing. Lame, lame, lame. And yes, I understand. You should shame your boy. Alrighty, let's start off the show with one of the best teams in the NFL that's not named the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the San Francisco 49ers. So this is Grant Cohn, longtime San Francisco 49ers reporter, and this was on his Twitter page, and he had this to say about the future and what's on the line this year for not only Kyle Shanahan, but also John Lynch.
I'm hearing the front office is extremely upset with the current financial status of the team, with the salary cap, and the Ayuk and Trent contracts. It's Super Bowl or bust, and if it's bust, then heads will roll. The Lynch and Shanahan regime is on the hot seat, and it's hotter than ever. So, fine. You want to be the team that spends more than anyone else? Fine. Win a Super Bowl. And if you don't, the Yorks might finally look for someone else who can.
I can't envision a scenario where at the end of this season, the San Francisco 49ers, even though they haven't had the ultimate success, which John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan haven't won a Super Bowl together, but they've been to two. I can't envision the York family saying, yeah, we're going to fire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And I understand that neither of those gentlemen have won a Super Bowl as a general manager and a head coach. But whether it's that duo or even individually, if the Niners fired either one of them or both of them, they would have jobs in a snap of a finger. And this is what I think, and I kind of realized this yesterday, and I'm going to bring it up to Hickey when he joins us in studio. And trust me, I am someone that has called for plenty of coaches and GMs and president of football, basketball, baseball, hockey operations to be fired in my life. But just because a team doesn't win it all doesn't mean the immediate reaction is to fire the coach or fire the GM. Now, that could be the reaction from fans. And I understand, like, we're not traditional members of the media. Like, I'm a fan that does the show that just so happens to, because of the show that I do, have a lot of relationships where people will tell me things. But we will also have a lot of relationships through great conversations that we have on the air on this radio program. But when someone doesn't win it all, or someone starts to go in the wrong direction, I sometimes think we're too quick to now pull the rug out from underneath them and say, they're on the hot seat, they're going to get fired. Like Mike Norvell lost no games last year in the regular season. He won the ACC to move this into Florida State as well. And now after getting off to an 0-2 start after he signed a ridiculous contract extension and a lucrative contract extension, you have people like Hickey that are saying Florida State needs to move on and he's not the right man for the job. Well, before Mike Norvell was there, Willie Taggart was there. And Willie Taggart couldn't even dream about having the success the last two seasons that Mike Norvell had. There's a difference in having an underwhelming season. There's a difference in having a bad season. There's a difference in falling short. But just because those things happen, it doesn't always mean that we need to say this coach or this GM needs to get fired. And Florida State, after their 0-2 start, would not be smart to get rid of Mike Norvell at the end of the season. Like, if you're starting to fade on Mike Norvell, that's your problem. You know, okay, I can understand that after these two terrible starts against Georgia Tech and Boston College. I'm not making excuses for him. But he at least deserves another chance. And there's no way at the end of this season that Mike Norvell is going to get fired. Now, I say that understanding that Mike Norvell hasn't had anywhere close to the success, even though he's been successful at Florida State, that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have had in the professional world with the San Francisco 49ers. They are consistently, year in and year out, one of the better teams in the NFL. And don't get it twisted with what I'm saying. It is absolutely positively Super Bowl or bust for the San Francisco 49ers this year. And if the San Francisco 49ers lose in the wild card round, the divisional round, the conference championship round, or even the Super Bowl, the season is a failure. The season is a disaster. But with that being said, I don't think the York family, nor 49ers fans, nor the people in that organization are going to say, okay, we lost in the NFC title game to, let's say, the Rams. Or we lost in the NFC title game to, let's say, the Lions or the Eagles or the Packers. Or they lose in the Super Bowl again to Kansas City. If you're being rational, if you're being fair, and you're being honest, you're not calling for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to lose their jobs. Now, we still need to see, as a GM and as a head coach, if they can win a Super Bowl. They've been close, but they haven't done it yet. But I would keep on running it back with those two. And this is coming from someone at times that thinks that, yes, Kyle Shanahan is a tad overrated, but I would at least like to be invited into the dance each and every year and have a chance to enjoy myself at the dance. Because if you move on from Kyle Shanahan, you move on from John Lynch, don't get me wrong, this roster is loaded with talent. But two things. How do you know the next guy is definitely going to be better? How do you know that? And then also, if you are moving on, who is the next guy at the GM and the coaching spot? And if you move on, you could go back to the days of, who was it, Jim Tom Sula and Chip Kelly? Like, that's who was before Shanahan and John Lynch started running the organization. So they are close. They have to capitalize. Don't get that twisted. But this idea that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are on the hot seat, and there's a chance that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch lose their jobs and get fired. Not like, hey, I resign. Not like, hey, I've had enough of this and I'm leaving on my own accord. No. I'm talking about getting fired. I'm talking about the Niners moving on from them. I don't envision a scenario just because the 49ers are spending a lot of money and they're giving out big deals to Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel in years past, Brandon Ayuk this offseason. I don't think the York family is going to say, yeah, you know what? We've been really close. We haven't won a Super Bowl, so now we have to move on. Quite frankly, the York family, then if that happens, maybe they should just coach the team. And maybe they should just be the GM. Because if you get rid of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan now, after this year, if you don't win a Super Bowl, you make your bed, then you got to go lie in it. Because they're not deserving of guys that should be on the hot seat. There's pressure to win. But just because there's pressure to win doesn't always mean it leads to someone losing their job. And I don't see a single scenario possible where John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan aren't back leading the San Francisco 49ers next year. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We have to preview our final NFL team for the season. We have 31 down, one more to go. We preview the Rams. We stay in the NFC West next with Adam Grossbard right here on the Infinity Sports Network. But first, football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You could pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use my promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use my promo code right here on the Zach Gelb Show, SCORE. That's SCORE, SCORE, for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. Once again, that's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football season is right around the corner.
Holding himself, runs to the left, he's to the 5, Lamar's in, touchdown Ravens! They're going to have a championship game in Baltimore because they hate the barn!
Will it be your team's year to hoist the Lombardi?
In the shotgun, Mahomes. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown! It's caught! Hardman caught the ball! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won! The entire bench empties! Chasing Mahomes in the end zone! Their third Super Bowl in 5 years!
We preview all 32 teams right here on the Zach Gelb Show. Los Angeles Rams.
They're the 32nd and final team that we will preview. The NFL season will kick off tomorrow in a matchup that features the Chiefs and the Ravens. But let's preview a team that has an opportunity, just like the Chiefs and the Ravens, to be played in the Super Bowl. Maybe they'll be going up against one of those teams in the AFC, and that's Los Angeles Rams. We do so right now with the Rams writer for the LA Daily News, and that's Adam Grossbard here with us on the Zach Gelb Show. Adam, appreciate you doing this. How you been?
I'm doing good. Just can't believe it's week 1 already.
Yeah, let me start you off because when we are usually talking about the Rams, it has to deal with one of the better defensive players, not only in the league, but of all time, in Aaron Donald. We know he has retired. He's walked away from the game. Rams were active in the draft, doing the Florida State party of Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Give me a little feel on this defense as we enter the first season of them without having their great defensive lineman in Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it was a big turnover for the defense this year. You know, Raheem Morris goes to the Falcons, replaced by Chris Shula as defensive coordinator, who's been with McVay since McVay came to Los Angeles.
And
they have some continuity. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you back. Go ahead.
Okay. So they got some continuity with Chris Shula being promoted up to defensive coordinator after Raheem Morris left. But they still lost all 3 defensive captains. Jordan Fuller to free agency. They traded Ernest Jones last week. And then, of course, AD retiring, which is the biggest hole of all of them to fill. And they're trying to go the money ball route, trying to go by the aggregate. You know, they don't expect Kobe Turner to be Aaron Donald this year, but they hope that him, along with Bobby Brown and rookie Braden Fisk, can fill in on the inside, and then have Jared Verse give them some dynamic play on the opposite side of Byron Young at outside linebacker. So far, those guys...
Yeah, we're obviously having a bad connection. Yeah, Adam, let me just follow it up and ask you this. If we get late into the season, and I know we have a little bit of bad connection right now, and the Rams are expected to be as good as what I think they can be, you think there's any chance they could lure Aaron Donald out of retirement?
I mean, I have no information on that. They've done it before with Eric Weddle, but Aaron Donald marches the beat of his own drum. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last we've seen of him.
Adam Grossbard here with us. Flipping gears to the offensive side of the ball, Kyren Williams had a massive year 2 for this team out of Notre Dame, had over 1,100 rushing yards, was 3rd in the league in rushing yards. What do you think is the next step for Kyren Williams, the young running back for the LA Rams?
Staying healthy for a full year. You know, he's dealt with injuries, you know, both of his professional seasons. He would have missed the second round of the playoffs if they had beaten the Lions last year. So it's staying healthy, and I think that's why they added Blake Corum to take some of that pressure and make sure Kyren's ready to play 17-plus games.
And Blake was one of the best players in college football the last few seasons. For him to get taken in the 3rd round, what do you know, if Williams is healthy, let's just say, which is a big if, like you said, as Adam Grossbard's here with us previewing the Rams, how do you kind of envision the role for Blake Corum fitting in to a Sean McVay offense this year?
I think you're going to see a good amount of him. I think Kyren's still the guy. But I think you're going to see a lot of goal line work for Corum. He was always really good inside the 10 in college. I think you're going to see some passing down work, maybe some kick returns. You know, they're going to try to get those 2 guys on the field as much as possible. You know, I think he'll get some rushing opportunities to spell Kyren. And, you know, if Kyren gets hurt, Blake's going to, you know, get that job for as long as Kyren's out.
Adam Grossbard here with us as we preview the Rams. Puka Nacua if it wasn't for C.J. Stroud, he would have been Offensive Rookie of the Year a season ago at 105 receptions, nearly 1,500 receiving yards. I know he's dealing with a little bit of a knee injury, but I saw Sean McVay said the other day he's practicing fully and he'll be ready to roll. When you take a glance at Puka Nacua, is there any fear of a sophomore slump, or is this just going to be the continuation of one of the great steals of the draft?
So he spent the whole offseason training with Cooper Kupp. He's in way better shape. He's a little bit sharper on his routes. Last year he led the league in drops. He said he's been working a lot on that, making sure he's keeping his eyes on the ball until it's in his hand. I think the biggest element, though, is last year the Rams really didn't get to game plan for a full season of what can we do with Puka Nacua. They didn't know how much they could do with him. They've had a full winter, spring, summer to figure out how does this guy work in our offense? How does he work opposite of Cooper Kupp? How do they play off of each other? I would expect him, I don't know if he can put up exactly the same numbers because those were pretty gaudy for anyone at any time in their career, but I think he's still going to be a really productive first receiver.
I'm confident with this Rams team, Adam. I know that not a lot of people are picking them to go to the Super Bowl this year. It seems like more of that love is directed to the Niners or the Eagles or the Lions, or even a lot of people putting a few dollars down on the Packers. So let me just ask you this. I think this is a really well-rounded football team. We know who the quarterback is, we know the coach is, and we know how solid they could be on both sides of the ball. As we enter this first season and you enter game one of the season up against the Lions on Sunday night, what's your biggest concern with this team entering this year?
Does the offensive line stay on the field? They dealt with a bunch of injuries to starting right tackle, left guard during training camp. Alaric Jackson, starting left tackle, was suspended the first two games. We're not sure if Rob Havenstein, the longtime starting right tackle, is going to play on Sunday. And they don't really have a lot of bodies. They only have 7 offensive linemen on the roster right now, and that includes Havenstein. So can they keep that group healthy? Because having those guys, that specific combination of 5 guys up there is really the key to getting Kyron Williams loose, which really frees up Matthew Stafford, which frees up on and on it goes. So they really are the tone setters for this new power run that the Rams have been running the last year. And if they're not ready to go, I think it could kind of spiral for the team.
Last thing I'll ask you, Adam Grossbard, the last few years, the conversation has always been there about retirement for Donald, Matthew Stafford, and Sean McVay. Since Aaron Donald did elect to retire this past offseason, just what's kind of the feel around the team when you go into this year talking about the future of a Matthew Stafford and also the coach and Sean McVay?
Sean seems fully there, fully committed. He talked a lot last year about how that team helped him find his way. Helped him kind of find the joy of coaching a team for a full calendar year again. I think the stresses and just the standards that he had set for himself through his success and started to weigh on him a bit, and he's been honest about that. But I do think, he's definitely a re-energized version of himself. Matthew, a lot of it's going to come down to his body. A lot of it's going to come down to his family. I believe him when he says he's not thinking about retirement until after the season's over. But he's going to move into the top 10 passing yards, top 10 passing touchdowns this year. Does he think maybe I need to stick out another year to make sure I get a gold jacket? It'll be kind of interesting to see how he kind of views these next couple of years as they relate to his legacy.
He's Adam Grossbard covering the LA Rams. Adam, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Zach.
There you go. Adam Grossbard joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'm optimistic about the Rams. Someone asked me yesterday, who's a team that isn't getting talked about enough in the AFC and then also the NFC? And the first team I discussed in the NFC were the Rams. And I know people could say, oh, you're really going out on a limb there. I understand you could say that because the Rams are a damn good team. We know that. But when we talk about a potential Super Bowl team in the NFC, right away people say the 49ers. Right away people say the Lions. Right away people say the Philadelphia Eagles, if they could take care of their chemistry issues. And then a lot of people are hot on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I haven't heard many people mention the LA Rams. And Adam's right. Their biggest question is their offensive line. But if this offensive line can stay healthy, and they already have a few health concerns on that offensive line, you look at this team, Stafford, Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum. It is a loaded offense. And defensively, yes, they lose Donald, and I'll be fascinated towards the end of the year. You call up Aaron Donald, hey, you want to come out of retirement, go try to go chase another Super Bowl. If he would have, I don't want to say the cojones, because I would never question anything really about Aaron Donald, but would he have the will or the desire to come on back? But that defense, I think, is good enough, even without Donald, to be sufficient in order to try to go get a Super Bowl championship this year. So I like the Rams. And then the AFC, I think the team that a lot of people aren't talking about that could surprise some people this year, and I know they were only 9-8 last year, so it's not a mega surprise, but it's the Jaguars. The Jaguars got banged up last year. I know that they don't have Calvin Ridley anymore, with him staying in division and just moving over to Tennessee. But this Jaguars team, they're in the same spot that the Texans are heading into this year. Breakout season the year prior, then big expectations, and then the Jaguars just missed out in the playoffs. The Texans were 10-7 last year. The Jaguars were 9-8. And Josh Allen on the defensive side is a stud in the NFL, and offensively, they have a solid wide receiver unit. I don't know if there's a true number one, but their wide receiver unit is solid. Evan Ingram is a solid tight end now, which I never thought I would say that when he was a part of the Giants. And also Travis Etienne is an underrated player in the NFL, and it's a huge year for Trevor Lawrence, where even though they paid him, the jury is still out on him on if he can be that great quarterback that he was picked to be and now paid to be, when he was not only the number one overall pick, but got that huge extension this past offseason. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you with some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio, with a news brief next. But first up, with the latest Infinity Sports Network update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at Progressive.com. The money keeps flowing in the NFL. The Broncos and Patrick Surtain have come to terms on a 4-year extension worth $96 million. $77 million is guaranteed. And the Broncos all in on Bo Nix, naming the first-round pick as one of their captains, the first rookie captain for the team since Floyd Little in 1967. The Chiefs will open their title defense Thursday without receiver Hollywood Brown, who's out with a shoulder injury, and the Eagles won't have Devin White for Friday's season opener due to an ankle injury. He did not even make the trip to South America. The Bills' DeMar Hamlin will start Sunday against the Cardinals for the first time since his cardiac episode in January of 2023. The Mets and Red Sox are both battling for wild cards and conclude their series tonight in New York. The Mets have won 6 in a row to move within a half game of the Braves for the final National League wild card, while the Red Sox are 4.5 back in the AL. The Royals still hold the final American League wild card. They've dropped 7 straight to fall 5.5 games back in the AL Central, and will try to halt that slide tonight against the first-place Guardians. At the U.S. Open, Carolina Makova moves into the women's semis with a straight sets win. I'm Rich Ackerman. You're in a 5-minute break.
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network,
It's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF SportsCenter at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can always interact with the show on Twitter X at Zach Gelb. Zach Matlock on Twitter says, we were talking about the Niners earlier in the Grant Cohn report about how Lynch and Shanahan are on the hot seat. I did not buy it, but Zach says, hey, Zach, I think the 49ers don't win it all. We need to do a mini rebuild, move Warner, Kittle, and your Debo. I like how he words that. Your Debo. I thought we should have done that this offseason. Firing Shanahan and Lynch would be insane. Yeah, I think there's a 0% chance Shanahan and Lynch are getting fired at the end of the year if they don't win a Super Bowl. But instead of running back the same team, then maybe you need to retool a little bit. And I've thrown this out there. I know there was a restructure in the Debo deal. I thought for a while the Niners were going to pay Ayuk and then a year from now trade Debo Samuel. Also, Chris Thorson on Twitter says, off of what I had to say yesterday with Kellen Moore, how this is his last chance to prove he could be a head coach in Philadelphia, whereas an offensive coordinator, if he has success there, even at the age of 36, maybe he'll get a head coaching job because so far he's just been bouncing around the league as an offensive coordinator. Chris said, Kellen is better off doing what he does. He has a family and he's smart. Well, you could have a family and be smart and still be an NFL head coach. Many people do that. And Kellen, quite frankly, even though the stats say one thing, for a guy that was supposed to be a head coach and he just jumped around from the Cowboys to the Chargers, now the Eagles, that's not the trajectory what he was supposed to accomplish, which was being a young, innovative offensive mind that one day landed a head coaching job. And one more, this was off the Florida conversation that we had yesterday, where I said it's inevitable Billy Napier is going to get fired. And I said Urban Meyer isn't happening and Coach Prime is unlikely. The three names I threw out there were to replace Billy Napier were Lane Kiffin, Mark Stoops, and Lance Leipold. Joseph Blau on Twitter says, what about John Gruden? Gruden will never be an NFL head coach again. Quite frankly, ever since he won that Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, he was an overrated coach in the NFL. College, though, if there's a spot where he is going to be a coach again, it would be college. But Stu, you being, or at one point being a Gruden guy, I don't know if you still are or not, I feel like we've had speculation about John Gruden everywhere in the NFL, and then eventually did return to the Raiders, and that ended up not working out for many reasons. And then also there was like a lot with Tennessee, potentially. Yeah, anytime that Tennessee job did open up. I don't know at the age of 61, the day in and day out grind, like I think Gruden would want to coach again. Heck, he was being a consultant for the Saints. Isn't he coaching somewhere now?
He was helping out with the Chiefs earlier in the preseason.
Isn't he? Yeah, but also isn't he doing for an American football team in like Italy or something that I saw as an advisor? I want to say that we made fun of that. I remember reading something along those lines. So he definitely wants to coach again. But do you want to go through the day in and day out grind of NIL and the transfer portal?
Yeah, definitely not the transfer portal. And, yeah, he's with Siamon Milano in Italy.
Oh, that's how you say that?
I think.
I thought that was said a totally different way. I didn't think that was the actual team name, but when I first read that, that's why I was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's why you avoided it.
I think he's coaching an American football team somewhere in Italy. When I said that, I knew what he was doing. I just had no clue how to say that last name.
I definitely don't think NFL, and I don't think like a big college job. Maybe a smaller
we saw the lawsuit in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like if we're saying Brian Flores isn't getting a job in the NFL because of a lawsuit, and that guy has had more recent success than John Gruden, I don't expect John Gruden being a head coach. And also, I talked to Jay Gruden before, and Jay told me that he's like not coming back to be an offensive coordinator or anything like that. Like he would be a head coach if he was ever to return. But then he was consulting the Saints last year because of his relationship with Derek Carr. Now, what is he? He's in Italy? Is that where that is?
He is in Italy, yes.
Okay.
Incredible.
How did you say that?
Siamon Milano.
Siamon Milano. Okay. Sounds good to me. All righty. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu will probably have their shirt tomorrow because Stu has like every bizarre team, a.k.a. he just wears a bunch of soccer shirts of teams that I have or clubs excuse me, that I have no
look at
clue
you.
about.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm learning. You're rubbing off on me. All right, let's update you some of the biggest stories of the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Ayuk is on fire. Here is Brandon Ayuk on the difficult contract negotiations he had with the 49ers.
I'm not gonna lie, I made it a little bit more difficult than it needed to at the end. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was like that from. I'm not gonna say the whole entire time, but for about the past month, I think we were pretty good.
Yeah, it's like a couple that keeps on saying, "Yeah, we're gonna get a divorce. We're gonna get a divorce," and then they don't actually get a divorce, and they just continue to stay in the relationship. Now, I don't think that's a toxic relationship, as usually those relationships are in the example that I use. But did anyone actually believe outside of one day that Brandon Ayuk was going anywhere but the 49ers? We knew he was going to stay. And towards the end, right, you keep on saying they're crossing the T's and they're dotting the I's. He just didn't want to have to show up until like the last possible second. Here is Trent Williams on did the Ricky Pearsall incident where he was shot over the weekend in a robbery attempt, and then he actually was able to beat up the guy that was robbing him and still wind up in the gym a few days later after getting discharged from the hospital. Did that incident impact Trent Williams' decision to sign and get back into camp?
To be real, I felt more compelled to come back after that than anything, because I never experienced that, like in my playing career, to have a teammate, shot, so to speak. So in my mind, I'm like, man, I just want to get back, get around the team. Like, I just want to be, a voice in his ear, let him know everything gonna be all right. I'll be there for the team. A lot of people probably hurt and confused about what happened and thinking that am I next, So I wanted to be around for that.
I don't know, Stu. In that case, like if he showed up without a deal, okay, then I would believe him. But the fact he got his deal, it seems like just like the Ayuk situation, Ayuk and Williams both knew what their deals were going to be. It was just when they wanted to actually put pen to paper. Him saying the Ricky decision impacted him returning, that's kind of a tough sell to me. It really is, because you got your deal and that's what this is about. If you didn't get your deal, yes, obviously terrible what happened to your teammate. Are you showing up? Like, that would have been my question to Trent Williams. Here is Diana Rossini on why there's been no Dak Prescott contract yet, this courtesy of the Scoop City podcast.
The holdup at this point, from what I understand, is about the years the Dallas Cowboys are willing to commit to.
Again?
Really?
It's assumed that Dak is going to be paid at the top of the market. The Dallas Cowboys are aware of that. It's, do they want to put themselves in a position contractually that will keep Dak in Dallas longer than 2, 3, 4 years? And that's what Dak is looking for. He's looking for a long-term commitment from Dallas. So the holdup here is really the belief from the Dallas Cowboys. This is a guy who's won a lot of games. But is that enough? Winning's not enough for Jerry Jones.
So a few years ago, Dak wanted fewer years, the Cowboys wanted more years. Now Dak wants more years, the Cowboys want fewer years. They're not getting a deal done before week 1. There is a 0% chance that a deal gets done before week 1. I know it's not like a big take because week 1 is Sunday, right, for the Dallas Cowboys. But this deal was never getting done. The deal was never getting done before the start of the season, because if it were to get done before the start of the season, it would have happened before free agency so they could spread out the cap number and help out the Cowboys. So once that didn't happen, this deal wasn't getting done, and every Cowboys beat writer is like, oh, a deal will happen before free agency because then they could significantly trim down the cap number for this year. If I'm Dak, I'm leaving Dallas. I would leave Dallas. I'm not going through this song and dance. I know he's immune to all the Jerry Jones stuff. He tunes it out, blah, blah, blah. Go somewhere else. And Dak is good. He's not great, but he deserves better. All righty, we'll keep it moving. Let's go to Shefty, Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee Show. Will Jamar Chase miss games if he doesn't get a deal by week 1?
The truth of the matter is they should be able to handle New England at home. The key thing here is that the Bengals play the Chiefs next week in week 2.
Yeah.
And that becomes, to me, a real leverage point for Jamar Chase, because if somehow, some way, he's still not practicing and not playing in that game against that team, that impacts your ability in a game that could very well have seeding ramifications later in the season.
I don't know. I still think Jamar Chase is going to play week 1. Now, he could miss the Patriot game. Is it going to create more leverage? Probably not. You know, if you're going to wait, you wait through Kansas City. And then that's where you hope, okay, everyone watching, huge spot there, going to Arrowhead, you don't win the game, and then it's okay, we got to go give Jamar Chase the deal. But this shouldn't be the case. They should already have this deal done. You know he's not going anywhere. But for some reason, I just feel like Jamar Chase is going to play week 1. I really do. Is this going to get me mad? Coach with Bill Belichick. I saw a clip of Matt Patricia being on a show with Bill Belichick. Here is Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick breaking down the Pats' offseason moves.
You can really see, they did resign a lot of the players that we had, brought there and had there, as they obviously liked those guys. And then, a couple players that they didn't resign.
Well, Bourne re-signing, Onwenu re-signing. Stevenson had a year to go. They extended him. Henry was a re-signing. He's been a solid leader for him. The guy that's not on that list, of course, is Matt Judon. We'll see how those guys do. But, a lot of guys came back. The additions were mainly draft choices.
Yeah, and obviously Judon, a guy that we really liked and we enjoyed being around a lot.
Okay? I don't need to projectile vomit because I'd rather have root canal than listen to Matt Patricia talk about the Patriots offense. For most of it, he talked about the defense. But if this show, and I love Bill, I'll never say a bad word about Bill. But if this show is Matt Patricia at all talking about the Patriots offense this year, you think I've yelled before on this show? You've never heard me yell like the way that I'll yell if Matt Patricia, that bozo, who is a very good defensive coordinator for the Patriots. But when he was basically the offensive coordinator in New England, that was a complete and utter disgrace. And it was a terrible decision by Bill Belichick to put Patricia basically running that quarterback room and running that offense. Let's go to Dan Campbell. I'm putting more on Jared Goff's shoulders this year.
Through the years, these last 3 years, he's just continued to grow and gotten better and gotten better. And honestly, I think he just wants more, and he continues to challenge himself. And the more he does that, the more we load him up, the more we ask him to do, the more we put on his plate because he can handle it and he wants it. And so, man, where he's able to go, our offense is able to go. And so we ask him to do a lot. And we're going to ask him to do a little bit more than he did last year because he can handle it. He's proven that.
We've seen him get to NFC Championship games. We've seen him get to a Super Bowl. Now we'll see if Jared Goff could win a Super Bowl. And finally, here's Dan landing on Boise State's Ashton Jeanty after his huge performance with 6 touchdowns and over 260 yards rushing last week.
Yeah, I think this is the best running back I've seen since I've been here. He's certainly an NFL guy, and he doesn't go down on first contact ever. He's one of the best stiff arm guys that we've gone against. He runs really, really physical. And then, the next guy they brought in ran for 100 yards too. So really powerful rushing attack. The back certainly, is a big piece of their success.
You don't got a monster week 2 slate, but Texas, Michigan is an intriguing game. Boise State and Oregon, an intriguing game. You take a glance and you look around, obviously, Nebraska, Colorado, Tennessee, and NC State. Those are the games that really jump out to you for week 2 in college football. It is a Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, and a huge spot for Ashton Jeanty, where it's one thing with the opponent they played last week to put up the numbers he did. We know what he's capable of. We know what he had last year. But now you have a big national stage and a lot of people watching with the expectations that are centering around the Oregon Ducks, who were underwhelming last week, even though they got the win up against Idaho. And we'll see how they will perform this week, as that's going to be a fun matchup late on Saturday night. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The return of Hot Take Hickey next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's cities nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So when I took over the 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time slot right here on the network, I said to my boss at the time, Spike Eskin, who is now with Sports Radio 94 WIP, I want to bring on someone from the network each and every week. And for a while, we did Winkler Wednesdays. And then I got a text from Bart Winkler, who I love and is a dear friend in the radio world. Hey, my kid now gets home earlier than normal from daycare, so I can't do Winkler Wednesdays anymore. If we want to move it, I could then do that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, your name is Bart Winkler. So Winkler Tuesdays doesn't sound right. Winkler Thursdays doesn't sound right. And I was thinking about keeping the Bart Winkler imaging, right, that we do, and just put a disclaimer in front of it that was like, this segment was supposed to be on Wednesday, but because Bart has a kid and the kid had to go to daycare and get out of daycare a little bit earlier, now the segment's been moved to a Tuesday. I thought about that. But instead, I said, who else could we bring on? And we tried for a lot of other people. I'm just kidding. And I thought of my former producer extraordinaire, Hot Take Hickey.
Hot Take Hickey.
Who obviously, I have said this numerous times, even though most of his college football takes are wrong, there is no one that watches more college football than him and also has more opinions really about the NFL at this network that is better at doing so. So I have elected on Wednesdays in football seasons, until we fire him eventually. Oh, who knows? Maybe we won't. To bring on Hot Take Hickey, the producer of the JR Sport Brief extravaganza. Right, Guy? How you doing?
Hello, Z-Man. Yeah, I hope I wasn't your first choice. I hope you went down the list.
We tried for Rome.
This show is in trouble.
We tried for Rome. Rome said no. Then we tried for Maggie. Maggie said no. Then we tried for Perloff. Perloff said no. JR said, he sees enough of me like twice a year. I tried to get Bart back and say that I pay for his kids' daycare. He said no. I tried for Amy, but Pete the Body Bilotti said no. It can't happen since now Pete's producing Amy. So we tried through everyone.
That's
then
fair.
Carrington Harrison on the weekends, Sean Levine, Linnell Willingham, but he was probably late to the shift. Like, I've tried for a lot of people. And then we eventually got you.
Hey, I'll take it. Now, I guess the worst person, there's always one below me. I'll take it.
And who's the other guy on the weekends now? I used to put him on as a guest on the weekend overnights. The baseball guy, Rich Herrera. Hey, he calls himself like the Big Fajita now or something like that.
Really? I did not know that. I love that nickname.
So I tried for Rich as well. They all said no.
Fajita.
So now we're going with you.
I'll take it. Thank
Wednesdays
you.
in football season.
Let's go.
And I actually got some tweets about you yesterday. Because I guess I created this character, Hot Take Hickey, where now people religiously follow your picks and they try to make money and they fade your picks. And people like Tom DiCelestino, who works here, has put his kid through daycare just fading you. And I got a lot of tweets yesterday because I feel still there's like a responsibility that I have, and people feel that as well, where whenever you have a zany take, they feel compelled to tweet me because I gave you a pretty open microphone when we were working together. So I did not listen to your take, but you are advocating now and calling for Florida State to fire Mike Norvell?
Yes, that's correct. After Monday night, forget the results.
Boy.
That team on Monday night quit on their coach. There was no effort in that.
Get the big fajita on. We need to talk to him instead of doing Hickey each and every week.
And that was the easiest spot to get up. You lose the first game, but okay, guess what? 12-team playoff, your season is very much alive. National spotlight, you're at home, not on another continent, and you have that zero, you lay an egg in terms of effort, trying to punch Boston College back after they threw the first punch. Mm-hmm. That, to me, looked like a team that quit on their coach. Third time in 5 years now. Florida State 0-2. Not good.
Now, you religiously last year picked against Florida State. And I don't forget these things. We had Mike Norvell on the show, and he was like, tell your producer to keep on picking against me. And if it wasn't for a quarterback injury, they would have been in the college football playoff last year as ACC champs. There is a difference to me in having a bad season, where I'm not sugarcoating this. This is a disaster right now for Florida State. But the last 2 years, he's had double-digit win seasons. And also, they just gave Mike Norvell last offseason, a few months ago, a massive extension. So when I look at, does Mike Norvell deserve to get fired? It's not even going to be, maybe fans will have this conversation, but people actually making the decisions, there is a 0% chance at the end of the season that Mike Norvell's going to get fired, nor should he, because even though this season, if it does continue to go south, he earns a chance to redeem himself with what he did the last 2 years.
You look at the entire tenure of 5 years so far. What he's done is turn this program into a group of 5 program where it's one out of every 5 years you are competing for a championship. That's it.
Hold on. Willie Taggart before him. The
program
program he took, it wasn't like he was taking Florida State over when Bobby Bowden was there.
But it was also Willie Taggart's, 2 years there? Like his roots were not dug in deep into the program, where it's this big excavation. Florida State is still a program where you expect to at least compete for a national title every single year. And so far in the 5 years, they've been in there one time. They've been in the conversation one time. That is not good enough. And then again, you watch the play on the field. For me, it's not even the result that you lose to Boston College or go to 0-2. It's how your team didn't respond to anything you said, and it didn't respond at all to adversity after week number 1. That's, to me, more alarming than just flat out losing to Boston College at home.
Okay, so they won a BCS national championship back in 2013. Right. Then the following season, they were 13-1 in the Rose Bowl. But at the end of the Jimbo Fisher era, it's basically 10-3, 10-3, and then the bad 5-6 season. Norvell had 1 loss last year when the whole team left and wasn't playing because of the bowl game. And then the year prior to that had 10 wins. So to say they're a group of 5 school, is ridiculous.
Their season was over in September. Like they got hot late, but by that point your season's over.
But they got hot at the end of the season.
It doesn't matter.
And that put him in, yes it did, because here's the problem with you. You think change just happens immediately overnight and right away that these programs go from being bad to great. You need some patience. You need some time. And who's Florida? All right, so here's your genius idea that Florida State's getting rid of Mike Norvell. You want to have this conversation 2 years from now? Fine. Right now, it's ridiculous. You're the AD of Florida State. Who are you hiring? Who's your first phone call to?
I don't have a name right now.
You can't say that the guy's going to get fired and not give me a name.
Why not? You got to see who's interested. Got to see who's around. That's a
Florida State is this great job. If it's this great job that you're making out to be, you would have a laundry list of people interested, right?
I got to see who's interested. I mean, you're in an ACC conference that's wide open. That's nobody's taking it, and you are just taking a back seat to everybody else. That's a problem.
Where Norvell screwed up, and it's not that the players didn't respond to him. Where they screwed up was they showed how desperate they were. And coming out of halftime, you're down 8. Your defense was getting hot before the end of the first half with 2 3-and-outs. You're 4th and 5, right about midfield. I think it was at the 47. And they elect to go for it. Punt the ball there and play field position. That's what you should do. But there has to be something personal with you and Mike Norvell, because there's a lot of coaches that you give a longer leash to. Like Frank Reich, you thought it was absurd when that overrated coach was let go by the Indianapolis Colts. You thought he deserved another season.
By the time he got fired, I
had 2
understood
double-digit win seasons the last 2 years. This is the life of the transfer portal now. It's gambling. Some nights you win, some nights you lose. Florida State was overrated heading into this year, and they gambled on the wrong players. Nick Saban said it. You're going to spend money, and sometimes you're going to spend money on the wrong players, and you're going to be SOL. That's the transfer portal. That's the NIL game right now.
I agree with you, and that's also part of it. You can't build a team through the transfer portal. I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about last year that Norvell deserves credit for, but people kind of lump to the transfer portal conversation, a lot of those guys last year were in the program for multiple years. Jordan Travis, Jared Verse, Johnny Wilson, they got some big guys, Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, that were there for 1 year. They also had development. You can't just go into the transfer portal every single year, pluck out 15, 20 guys, put them in big positions and expect success. I agree with you 100%. He gambled on the wrong guys. They were way, way, way overrated. Probably a little sympathy from the media would be my guess after what happened last year is why they were 10th. Should have been 19th or 20th. And now you're seeing the results or the fruit of the labor.
And by the way, DJ Uiagalelei stinks.
I
I'm
agree.
sick and tired.
I agree.
Don't get me, you know me, I make no excuses for Dabo Swinney. And Dabo has his own problems, and that's a man that does not hold himself accountable, and he's not willing to adapt. He's not willing to change, even though he says he is. But DJ Uiagalelei, outside of Notre Dame, and I get that offense wasn't creative, but he stunk at Clemson. And you know what? Jonathan Smith deserves some credit for what he did at Oregon State last year with him. And now it's like, okay, you have a quarterback where I think the coaching staff, even though Norvell told me in March on this show, the sky's the limit, I think they knew that they didn't really have as great of a person or a quarterback as they thought they were getting when they brought him in. Because in that game one, outside of the fourth quarter, where to his credit, he did make some big plays on his own, they did not trust him because everything was just dink and dunk passes, and they didn't expand that field vertically.
And you see in Monday night, too, 21 completions, 21 incompletions. They ran the ball, Florida State did, for 1.6 yards per carry. When there's no run game, and Oregon State had a run game last year, Damian Martinez took pressure off DJU. When it's on his shoulders, good luck. It's not going to go well.
And also, Boston College beat them at their own game, too. They dominated them in the trenches. That was Florida State. They were a great offensive and defensive trenches team last year. That's what happened.
But that can't happen. That can't happen. 263 on the ground at Boston College. You run for 1.6 yards per carry at home. Just with the size and the talent, just effort alone would have mitigated half the rushing yards for Boston College. Would have given you, tenfold of what you got on the ground.
All righty, let me get to your team, Penn State, because I know you. You're someone that was trying to say, oh, the expectations aren't that great this year. I'm not going to get fooled again. And then you told me that you only had one loss on the schedule, and that was the game up against Ohio State, which, let me be fair, I'm usually anti-Penn State. I thought that was, for the first time in your life, a fair Penn State prediction when you're running around drunk as a skunk a few years ago, coming out of the Rose Bowl, where no one could even understand a word that you were saying because you were so intoxicated, and you were like, no big deal, playoff, watch out. I was like, please, you're ridiculous. Penn State, how far now are you willing to go after what you saw up against West Virginia? Because going in, you said they need to make the playoff.
Yes.
And going into this season, I was optimistic about Penn State. I said they're the third best team in the Big Ten. The two teams I had in front of them were Ohio State and Oregon. But now after that blowout, lopsided victory that they displayed up against a good football team in West Virginia with the loaded backfield and a coach that turned the narrative around a little bit last year in Neil Brown, where is the hot take hickey prediction on Penn State? Come on. I don't want neutered hot take hickey here where it's like, oh, I got burned the last few years. I want drunk as a skunk hot take hickey here giving me the real Penn State prediction.
I'll give you a little bit of both.
National championship game.
No.
James Franklin. I'll call for Mike Norvell to get fired, but James Franklin, I'll give him a job for 400 more years and I'll never win a real big game.
I will not change my expectation. If they make the playoff, I will still say that's a successful season. I will not say you have to win a playoff game or make the Final Four. But what I will say after Saturday is this. They have the offensive system and the play caller to beat any team in the country.
The Koltanecki?
Andy Kotelnicki. Now, they need to execute, and that's still a question I'm not fully all in on.
Coming from the light bulb tree.
But the creativity, the explosiveness that you saw, they could go against anybody. It was not Ricky Ronnie. It was not. They had a laundry list, unfortunately, of many guys that did not go well. Since Joe Moorhead was there in 2016, 2017, which is the two best years under James Franklin, they have not had an explosive, creative offense until then. They do right now. I'm very excited.
All right, so you hate Florida State. We know that.
Not hate Florida State.
You do, because you picked against them every step of the way. No, not last year. Michigan, that's another school that you hate. And you have, I'm not even getting to your asinine take about, Michigan should have their national championship vacated. That's even low for Penn State scum like yourself. All right? Let's just be honest. That's a low thing that you said. Michigan, who I said last year, going to be a great team, right? I told you, they won a national championship. You picked against them. Cheating scandals, stallions, blah, 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 blah. It was ridiculous. You embarrassed yourself last year, for being honest.
I was right.
No, you weren't, because they said we don't even need to throw the football against Penn State. Everyone was watching. Everyone knew that game was clean, and they still embarrassed you. And they beat Ohio State. They beat Alabama. They sent Nick Saban into retirement, and then they also beat Washington. But Michigan, defense is great. We know that. Offensively, Donovan Edwards had a great national championship game, didn't have a good season last year. And the quarterback, I always thought it was going to be Orji, but then when I was seeing John Jansen in Vegas, he said it was going to be Davis Warren. Michigan plays Texas this week. I know where you're going to go in this game, because Michigan could have looked like they were the 2007 Patriots against Fresno State, and Hickey would pick against them. Texas is a 7.5-point favorite. You laying the number on Texas?
Oh, big time. Blowout. Blowout in the big house.
I have no reason outside of two points to take Michigan plus the points. Number one,
are you considering it?
Yes. Here's why. Number one, you just gave me one of them.
Blowout in the big house. Okay, that's fair.
It's because you're picking Texas to blow them out and cover the 7.5. But number two, it would be so college football. There's no reason. I will even admit this. There is no reason to pick Michigan in this game. I'm not saying Michigan's going to win, but Will Johnson and Graham to keep the game close. I know Texas has an explosive offense. It would not shock me if there's a backdoor cover there, or that game's a little bit closer where Texas wins, but that game's a little bit closer what people anticipate.
I don't even know how it gets to that point. Like you said, look, their defense is very good. Their weakness, though, is their secondary. Will Johnson, best corner in college football. Behind him, though, around him, not a lot that's very good. So you have an explosive...
the Rod Moore loss is big.
That stinks. That absolutely, and that's part of it. So you have one great guy who saved the game last week for him, but if you have other guys that are just okay or not at that high of a level, Texas has enough weapons and a really good quarterback just to ignore Will Johnson. Don't even look his way. Throw it everywhere else. You have success. And like you said with the quarterbacks, like, how are they going to put points on the board? I have no idea. Will Warren did not give you any sort of confidence passing the ball. They don't want Alex Orji passing the ball. I don't know how that team puts up even more than 14 points.
Okay, let me ask you this. Will Warren, you just dropped the Yankees pitcher.
Davis Warren. My apologies. Will Warren, Davis Warren. I mean,
this is how you know Hickey's like nervous. He's like, Gelb's going to be attacking me in this segment, so I'm going to start mentioning Will Warren. Marash's
two guys
father,
that can't throw, by the way.
You want to talk about someone that hates Will Warren? Marash's father. I was, let's just say, a few drinks in, and when I was at Marash's house watching college football, they set a little TV up for Bob, Sean's father, and even before Will Warren threw a pitch, he was like, this bum sucks. That's what Marash's dad said, and he got off to a decent start, and then it was a disaster there. Okay, Nebraska, Colorado. Who do you like in this one?
I like your boys a lot. I love Dylan Raiola.
Go Big Red!
Showed you last week. Real deal. And that Nebraska defensive line is one of the best in the country. Colorado showed you last week. They're the same team from last year. Bad offensive line, bad secondary. Shador is great. Travis Hunter is unbelievable. Two guys are not winning this
Horn's
game.
good?
Yes, Jimmy Horn is 3 guys. You're right. 3 guys are good. No one else is. Great defensive line for Nebraska. Really good quarterback.
Raiola looked like Mahomes.
Dude, you're right. There's a few throws where I'm like, that is freaky.
I know everyone's talking about the bazooka he showed off down the right sideline, but I thought the best throw was when he kind of sidearmed the ball. It was awesome.
It truly was like, if you just took his name and jersey off and just said, who is this, like in a shadow, you could say that was Patrick Mahomes. It looked identical. It was freaky.
Okay, let me get your thoughts. Just 2 NFL things. Who's the team that Hickey is bullish on this year? That not a lot. Like, I'll give you credit. Last year, you were bullish on the Browns. You were bullish on the Bucks. Blind squirrel found 2 nuts. That's what happened right there once in a while. Who's the team that you're bullish on this year that most people aren't?
Do the Bears count?
Too many people are bullish on them.
I'll take the Colts.
Take the Colts.
Not a homer pick here. But like Shane Steichen showed you last year, with Gardner Minshew finishing or playing in all but one game last year, they were a top 10 offense. They were one dropped running back pass out of the backfield away from winning the game and winning the division. So now if you have Anthony Richardson, if he could just stay healthy, which I think he will, this offense is going to be explosive. I think the AFC South gets 2 teams in. They're not winning the division, but I think they'll be a playoff team.
You know who's down on Anthony Richardson?
Who's that?
Someone that you respect and like a lot.
Oh, no. Who?
So I was walking out of the office yesterday. I was here a little bit late because, I work even after the show ends. I'm going on with affiliates, going on with their great friends in Boise on KTIK. Tonight I'm going on in Waco as well. So I was working late last night. Going to work late tonight as well. And I took an elevator down with Tiki Barber. And I go, Teak, what game you got this weekend? He goes, Colts Texans. I go, it's a good game. He goes, you would think so, but you never know with Anthony Richardson.
I mean, sure. Could he get hurt in the first play? I mean, sure, he could. Teak. I got to talk to him. I'll rough him up in the hallway.
You know what you say to Tiki? Oh, I heard what you once said about Eli Manning. He went on to go win 2 Super Bowls, so hopefully that's going to be the case with Anthony Richardson.
Tiki's still in good shape. He would kick the crap out of me.
Let me go to Chet in Texas real quickly on the Zach Gelb Show. Chet, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Zach?
I'm doing great, Chet.
Chet in Texas. Yeah. Here's my hot take. My hot take is Steve Sarkisian is taking the Longhorns to the Natty.
Okay. Now, I know who Chet is. I know who Chet is. Real quickly, Hickey, do you have any clue who this is?
No.
You have no clue who this is?
I heard a little Boston accent there in Sarkisian.
Come on, use your head. You got a lot of hair on that cabeza. Hopefully it's not blocking the brain of yours.
Oh, I'm terrible on the spot here.
Yeehaw! Hook 'em! You know what? I'm saying horns down to this caller. That was Sully.
Oh.
100% Sully, right? Yeah. You hear it at the bottom. If that guy's trying to be from the South and he says, Sarkisian, come on.
With
Park
yeehaw.
your car. Yeehaw!
I don't know if Chet was a regular. Oh, okay.
Super Bowl pick? I got to take a break. What's the Super Bowl
49ers over the Chiefs. Rematch.
49ers over the Chiefs. Okay, so that means Brandon Ayuk is going to get hurt this year. Deebo Samuel's going to get hurt. Trent Williams going to retire in the middle of the season.
I had the 49ers last year, and they were one drive away, so I was knocking on the door.
One more, because this is a 2-year bit now, a 3rd-year bit. You said Nathaniel Hackett was going to be coach of the year, and Russell Wilson was going to win the Super Bowl MVP year 1 with the Broncos. Last year, you said Sean Payton was going to take the Broncos to the playoffs. Bo Nix and Sean this year. What's the Broncos' prediction?
7 wins. I will not go playoffs 3 years in a row. I thought you were also going to ask Russell Wilson Super Bowl. I will not go there as well. Okay. Good year for the Broncos. 7 wins.
All righty. This was fun. Hickey will join us each and every week in football season on Wednesdays. He is Ryan Hot Take Hickey.
I don't know about that hot take, Hickey.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, coming on back with more after this. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You could pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money, and Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player...
$15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will have our first Take 5 Wednesday of the football season, my top 5 teams in college football and the NFL, in about 10 minutes or so from now. Very disappointed with Stefon Diggs. I read a little bit about what he had to say to GQ the other day. I just thought it was very unnecessary, and Stefon Diggs is someone, and I like Stefon Diggs too. Like, I met him twice, good dude, good guy, but he has an expiration date everywhere he goes. And that's just the reality, and he never thinks he's in the wrong. Like, at the end in Minnesota and at the end in Buffalo, he even said, those teams still wanted to have me, but it was my decision to leave. Like, what are you talking about? The Buffalo Bills clearly chose you over Josh Allen, right? That's a no-brainer decision. The Bills knew they had to get through one more season with you, and at the end of the season, it was if they wanted to trade you. Now, you were done with them, but they were done with you too. Stefon Diggs is kind of the guy that didn't want to get broken up with the girl, but senses that the girl's going to break up with him and goes, when the girl goes to him, hey, we're breaking up, he goes, no, babe. You're not breaking up with me. I'm breaking up with you. But it was like, hold on, Stefon Diggs. The girl just said she's breaking up with you. And just because you yelled louder and you were more boisterous and you go, oh, no, I'm breaking up with you, and you storm out like a petulant child, than, okay, you think in your mind that you actually broke up with the girl. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. I don't know what happened in Buffalo. I don't. But now we have a pattern. When it ends with Stefon Diggs, we saw it in Minnesota, it's ugly. When it ends in Buffalo, it's ugly. And last year, you could clearly tell, and I'm not saying Sean McDermott is a choir boy and he's always right. Like, I'm not saying that. Sean McDermott is, has said some stupid things, and that's been well documented. But when Sean McDermott gets in front of the podium last year, after whatever happened that led to Diggs leaving the facility that day, and he's like, yeah, it's concerning. And then the next day, try to put the toothpaste back in the tube when the toothpaste is already out of the tube. That told me everything I need to know about the relationship with Stefon Diggs, Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, and also Brandon Beane. Now, I get it. A lot of guys in that locker room, they like Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs, people like him. But just because people like you doesn't mean you can't be a pain in the ass. Stefon Diggs is a very good player for the Bills. Him and Josh Allen had a very good connection. And now Stefon Diggs is in Houston, and I kind of look, okay, what should I expect out of the Texans this year? I think the Texans are going to be solid. Do I think that Stefon Diggs, even with other weapons around him, like a Nico Collins, like a Tank Dell, is going to be a problem in Houston? No. But remember, they redid his deal where his deal's done after this year. So I don't really think there's a time period for it to get really ugly with Stefon Diggs, because the Texans basically catered to him, with the exception that they made in the way that they reworked his contract after trading for him. So, I know that everyone tries to spin it the way that they want to have it, and I'm not telling someone not to do an interview, but it felt very unnecessary with what Stefon Diggs said the other day to GQ. And I understand, right? He talked about some mental health things as well. And I do have sympathy to that, where he talked about how last year was like the worst mental headspace that he's been in his career. But it's like, okay, and I hate to question the validity of someone's mental health, right? That's not my place to do so. But with that being said, were there things actually going on? Or were you upset because you didn't have a touchdown since Thanksgiving weekend? Or you didn't have a 100-yard game since October, and there was an offensive coordinator change, and there was a difference in philosophy? Were you upset with an issue that we still don't know what happened, that you may be in the right on, you may be in the wrong on before the start of the season? It's like sometimes, people use mental health to talk themselves out of a situation where they were in the wrong and use it as an excuse. And if that's the case, and I hope it's not the case, then that's a really bad thing to do. But if there were legitimate issues with Stefon Diggs, then obviously I have sympathy for him. But in the case of this article, to basically puff your chest out and go, oh no, I said to the Vikings it was over. I said to the Bills it was over. They still wanted to have me, and there's still truth that hasn't been told yet, but I'm not going to be the bad guy here. It's like, what's the point of this? Like, last time I checked, you got traded to a team in Texas. It wasn't the Cowboys, it's the Texans. The Texans 3-4 years ago, yeah, drama after drama, ridiculous storyline after ridiculous storyline. You're not on the Cowboys now, where they determine success off how much drama you create. So I think Stefon Diggs is going to have a bounce-back season. I think Stefon Diggs is going to have a solid season. And I think the Texans are going to be a good team. That AFC South is really damn good. Jaguars are going to be good. Colts should be good. And the Texans are also solid as well, and they have the quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Like, there's questions about Anthony Richardson. There's questions about Trevor Lawrence. I don't have many questions about C.J. Stroud, and I appreciate what the Texans did this offseason. They didn't just rest off what they did the year before. Oh, we were so much better than what people expected, so now we're going to stay put. No. They said we're going to go get Danielle Hunter. They said we're going to go get Stefon Diggs. We're going to go get Joe Mixon, and they're trying to advance this football team even further than a 10-win regular season they had the year before, winning the AFC South, and also finding a way to win a playoff game and be playing on divisional round weekend. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll give you my top 5 teams in college football, my top 5 teams in the NFL. We'll get to a Take 5 Wednesday next. First up, though, with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
The highest paid defensive back is now the Broncos' Patrick Surtain, who gets a 4-year extension worth $96 million, and over $77 million is guaranteed. The Broncos also named first-round pick Bo Nix as a captain, the first Denver rookie to hold that distinction since Floyd Little in 1967. The Chiefs' Marquise Hollywood Brown has been ruled out for Thursday's opener due to a shoulder injury, while the Eagles head to South America without linebacker Devin White, who will miss the season opener with an ankle injury. Jamar Chase was a limited participant today at Bengals practice. Quarterback Joe Burrow said of his top target, he's ready to go. The Bills' DeMar Hamlin will start Sunday against the Cardinals for the first time since going into cardiac arrest in January of 2023. Baseball action right now, top of the 6th. The Phillies lead the Blue Jays 3-2. Kyle Schwarber led off the game with a home run for the 13th time this year. And at the U.S. Open today, in the men's quarterfinals, moving on is Jack Draper after a straight sets win. On the women's side, Karolina Muchova also a straight sets winner. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. In football season, each and every Wednesday, not only now will we be talking to Hot Take Hickey, but we also do this great segment called Take 5 Wednesday. It's my top 5 teams in the NFL and also college football. So with the NFL season starting tomorrow and us already having a week of college football, for some teams, 2 weeks of college football, let's get to my rankings in a Take 5 Wednesday.
As the dust settles from last week's games, it's time to look at which teams are rising and which are falling.
And there's an interception.
Zach ranks his top 5 NFL and college football teams on this week's edition of Take 5, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, in at number 5, I'm a fair man. I loved what I saw out of Penn State. Well, I don't like that I saw it, but if I had to just take my disdain for Penn State out of it, even I was very impressed with Penn State. New offensive coordinator coming over from Kansas was the right hire. And not only that, Drew Aller improves off of it. You have a good run game. Got to see a little bit more out of the wide receivers, but defensively, that has not been a problem as of late for Penn State. I know they have Tom Allen now coaching the defensive side of the ball, coming over from Indiana with Manny Diaz, my good old friend Snake Diaz, being the head coach at Duke. But Penn State, that was a well-rounded and a great victory, one of the best victories of the weekend, especially going up against a West Virginia team that was like a dark horse potential pick to go win the Big 12. So I will put Penn State in at number 5. I think this team is better than where I'm going to rank them right now. And I do have high expectations for this team. I think they're in the final 4-team standing this year. I didn't love their first half, so that's why I'm not putting them inside the top 3. But I do have the Ohio State in at number 4. I expect that to only increase. We know the talent on this team, but it just was a little bit of an underwhelming first half up against Akron, even though they did go on to win the game 52-6. This is based off what I've seen, also based off reputation. Ohio State deserves to be in the top 5, but I'm not going to rank them any higher than number 4. Here is a team that I just keep on increasing expectations on. And I actually picked them to get to the national championship game this year, where I had them losing to Georgia. And I know it's only Western Kentucky, but Alabama rolled Western Kentucky by a score of 63-0. Let's be real. Alabama is going to crush South Florida. They play Wisconsin. You know, it's a big spot for Luke Fickell. I expect Alabama to win, but it's not a gimme just because of some of the unknown with Alabama. But the first big test for Alabama is coming up at the end of the month up against Georgia at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Jalen Milroe is going to have a phenomenal season. He got better as the year did go on last season, and he's going to benefit in a big way by now having Kalen DeBoer as his head coach. Had 200 yards passing over the weekend, the 3 passing touchdowns, and also was mobile as well, putting 79 yards on the ground for 2 rushing touchdowns. So he combined 5 touchdowns in the game. You don't want to get delirious because of the opponent, but it was a nice sample size that you got to see on only 7 completions and only 9 passing attempts. You put up 200 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and then you also add in nearly 80 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. I like what I saw out of Jalen Milroe. I put Alabama in at 3. All righty. Sully's favorite team. Hook 'em. Hook 'em horns. Horns up, not horns down. I know it's only Colorado State, but they blew them out. They just destroyed them 52-0. Quinn Ewers was great. You got to see Arch Manning in the game as well. And now this is a big week for Texas. Because Texas, 3 things could happen here. You blow out Michigan, and you reiterate and justify my ranking of you at the 2nd spot this week. You play a close game, and then people go, okay, it was Colorado State week 1 that you blew out, and then in week 2 up against Michigan, you showed you're not that great, and maybe you're just very good. You lose the game, it's an absolute disaster. And I think Michigan could cover this game, 7.5-point spread, but Texas should win the game. And in at number 1, it's the Georgia Bulldogs. They played a B- game and still smothered a top 15 team in the rankings in Clemson. And that game, even when it was 0-0 at the end of 1 or 6-0 going into halftime, you knew how much better Georgia was than Clemson. So my top 5 teams after 1 week: Penn State in at 5, Ohio State in at 4, Alabama in at 3, Texas 2, and Georgia 1. How about that? 3 SEC teams. 1, 2, 3, and then my Big Ten teams are 4 and 5. Stu Kovacs, speak now or forever hold your peace.
All right, what about a team that went into Texas A&M and won by 10, Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, tremendous defense. Offensively, tough environment in Aggie land. The offense, though, I didn't think was great, and I thought A&M was overrated heading into the season. A huge win for Marcus Freeman. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I think a lot of people just look at the results and go, oh, based off A&M's past, wow, like, oh, they're beating A&M. That was a big boy victory for the Irish, but I don't think A&M is all that great. New coach in there and Mike Elko, so they'll be a college football playoff team, but I'm not ready to put them in the top 5.
What about the defending champs, Michigan, after their 20-point win over Fresno State?
Yikes. Will Johnson pulled away late on that touchdown, that pick 6. Offensively, though, concerns. The line has to be better, and usually Michigan's offensive line has been unbelievable. Donovan Edwards needs to be better. Needs to be Donovan Edwards from 2 years ago, or Donovan Edwards in the national championship game up against Washington. And the quarterback situation is a big question mark. Michigan's going to win some games this year. There's no doubt about it. Michigan has a chance to go to the college football playoff this year, but it's going to be close and it's going to be ugly until Sharon Moore figures out how they can get that offense to be competent, because it was incompetent after week 1.
What about a team that a lot of people had in their top 5 at the beginning of the season, Oregon?
Yeah, and so did I. And I think Oregon is going to be a really good program this year, and I have them in my Final 4 and being a semifinalist team. But with that being said, that offense did not look good up against Idaho. And it's Idaho, it's sloppy, you don't show everything necessarily week 1. I just didn't think they had a performance that screams top 5 team. Like Georgia blew out Clemson, Texas, Alabama, right? Ohio State, Penn State, they all had blowout victories. Oregon's going to be really damn good this year, but they didn't play like a top 5 team in week 1, so that's why I left them out.
And last one, after putting 41 points up against Florida, what about the Miami Hurricanes?
It's all about the U. And guess what? Billy Napier is on the chopping block. So it's a mixture of 2 things. Tremendous victory for Miami. Give them credit. They annihilated Florida. But with that being said, I think it also speaks what Florida is right now. And that's why it's a very good win for Miami. And hey, they blew out Florida, unlike Notre Dame, who didn't blow out Texas A&M. I'm not taking anything away from the team and the victory, but I do think Miami's good, Notre Dame's good. I don't think they're great, and I think the blowout and the decisiveness of the score, or the difference in the score, kind of speaks more to the team that lost rather than the team that won. So those are my top 5 teams in college football. Penn State in at 5, Ohio State 4, Alabama 3, Texas 2, Georgia 1 after week 1 of the college football season. Now to the NFL, with the season starting tomorrow night. Bum, bum, bada, bum, bum. Bada, 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 bum. With the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start in at number 5. I don't have this team winning their division, but I'm going to put them as a top 5 team and leave the team that I have winning the division on the outside looking in. Baltimore Ravens. I'm starting to warm up to Baltimore, man. That defense is damn good even with the pieces they lost. Lamar Jackson's a 2-time MVP. They got Derrick Henry. Mark Andrews, a really good tight end when healthy. Zay Flowers going to have a good season. I like the addition of Derrick Henry. Started making me warm up a little bit to the Ravens. And we know their question is, come postseason time, can they get the job done? But in the regular season, led by John Harbaugh, they're really good. The Eagles. There's no excuses for Philly. I don't want to hear about Jason Kelce retiring, Fletcher Cox retiring, maybe some locker room fighting between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. This team has too much talent. Too much talent. And they have a big test Friday night in Brazil. You got to get the job done up against a very good football team in the Green Bay Packers. But from Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown to Devontae Smith to Dallas Goedert to Saquon Barkley, just so much talent on this team. I'll put the Eagles in at number 4. At 3, team that was in the NFC Championship game with a big lead, and they lost. The Detroit Lions. There's some concerns about the consistency of that defense. I like Hutchinson. I like Anzalone. Offensively, you got Sewell, you got Goff, you got Gibbs, you got St. Brown, Laporta. This Lions team, and Lions fans, I'm happy for you, because you guys were a laughingstock for so long. And now you walk into a season with legitimate Super Bowl expectations. A few years ago, right, there was a big question about Dan Campbell. Got hot late. They had that victory in Green Bay, and then it carried over into last year's excellent season. Now it's about winning a Lombardi trophy. In at number 2, been one of the better teams in the NFL the last few years. It's crazy that they don't have a Lombardi trophy. Shanahan's a good coach. Lynch a good GM. Brock Purdy continues to soar in this league. You got Williams back now on the contract. You got Ayuk back now on the contract. Deebo Samuel still running around. And we know his two-way abilities, obviously. Kittle's still there. Run CMC's one of the better offensive players in the league. Defense solid, led by Fred Warner and Bosa, if he could stay healthy. 49ers, once again, Super Bowl or bust. And number 1, they haven't even played their best brands of football the last 2 years. And it was still better than the rest. As long as you have Mahomes and Kelce and Andy Reid on a team, the Kansas City Chiefs not only going to have a chance, they are the team to beat, and they're in the number 1 spot. So Ravens 5, Eagles 4, Lions 3, 49ers 2, Chiefs 1. Stu, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Had a strong second half behind Jordan Love. What about the Packers?
Yeah, I just got to see them put it together for a full season. That team could win the division. I'm picking the Lions. We'll do the full predictions tomorrow. I love the acquisition of Jacobs and McKinney this offseason. The wide receivers is not a number 1, but they got a really good wide receiving unit. And Jordan Love down the stretch, 20 total touchdowns, 1 interception. He looks like a star. But they're very good. They took a big step last year. Now can they take the next step? That's why they're just on the outside looking in. But definitely a contender.
Joe Burrow back healthy. What about the Bengals?
So I'm picking the Bengals to win the North. But I put the Ravens in at 5. So you're going to say, Zach, well, how does that make any sense? It's just, can they stay healthy? And can Joe Burrow stay healthy? And is Jamar Chase's contract going to get taken care of, and when will he be on the field? If Jamar Chase is there and Joe Burrow is there, that's the team in the AFC that has the best chance to dethrone the Chiefs, and they've done it before. Even though they didn't win a Super Bowl, they did beat the Chiefs in an AFC title game, and at one point in a 3-game win streak up against the Chiefs.
And last but not least, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Line's a concern, even though it's improved. Rodgers coming back from injury. I think he's going to have a big season. The Jets will be a playoff team, but I'm not putting him in the top 5. Rodgers, when he was in the NFC towards the end in Green Bay, had really good teams. Couldn't get to a second Super Bowl. Now in the AFC, where it's a tougher conference, even though the NFC is picking up ground, I could see the Jets get into the second round of the playoffs. Even if they get to an AFC title game, heck, then they would be in the top 5. But anything more than that, I can't see it. and I look at that line, yes, it's improved. Yes, they got some depth on that offensive line, but are they going to be able to stay healthy? And if those second guys need to come in because Smith gets hurt or Moses gets hurt, how ready to go are they going to be, especially the big tackle out of Penn State in Fashanu? All righty, those are my top 5 teams: Georgia, Texas, Bama, Ohio State, Penn State, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the NFL, Chiefs, 49ers, Lions, Eagles, and Ravens.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The football season in the NFL world returns tomorrow. We have NFL on Thursday, NFL on Friday, and then Saturday college football. Sunday, back to the NFL. First football Sunday of the year. And then on Monday, we do have Monday Night Football. We played you some audio earlier in the show. Let me play it for you again. This is Diana Rossini on the Scoop City podcast on why there has not been a contract yet with Dak Prescott and the drama Dallas choking Cowboys.
The holdup at this point, from what I understand, is about the years the Dallas Cowboys are willing to commit to.
Really?
It's assumed that Dak is going to be paid at the top of the market. The Dallas Cowboys are aware of that. It's, do they want to put themselves in a position contractually that will keep Dak in Dallas longer than 2, 3, 4 years? And that's what Dak is looking for. He's looking for a long-term commitment from Dallas. So the holdup here is really the belief from the Dallas Cowboys, this is a guy who's won a lot of games. But is that enough? Winning is not enough for Jerry Jones.
So I struggle with this because I know what the Cowboys scale is. The Cowboys scale is to create drama. And 9 times out of 10 with their big players, the deal does get done. Like CeeDee Lamb, his deal got done. Micah Parsons, not now, but his deal will eventually get done. It's like the last player that I could vividly recall that didn't get a deal done with the Cowboys was what, DeMarco Murray? Like when they want to get a deal done, they get a deal done. So in one breath, I'm like, all right, this is the song and dance that the Dallas Cowboys like to play. But in another breath, I'm thinking to myself, if that's true, and I don't know if it's true what Diana's saying, where there's a legitimate fight on years and the Cowboys want to go fewer years and Dak wants to go a longer route, and a few years ago it was the opposite where Dak wanted fewer years and the Cowboys wanted more years, that's legitimate doubt from the Cowboys. Like, that's the Cowboys saying, we'll pay you big money, but on a short-term deal. Now, I don't know how legit or not that report is, but I think people are forgetting Dak has a tremendous amount of stay in this situation if he elects to stay or go. He has a no-tag clause. He could leave after this year and explore free agency if he wants. And I'll ask the same question that I asked to Hickey, where he was like ridiculously saying earlier, oh, Florida State needs to fire Mike Norvell. I'll ask the same question to Jerry Jones and Cowboys fans. If you get rid of Dak, who you bringing in? You want to tell me you're going to move up in the draft and get Shedeur Sanders? Easier said than done. Like, I think the Cowboys missed the playoffs this year, but I don't think they're going to have a bad record where Cowboys fans may think it's a bad record, but it's not going to be bad enough and worse enough where you're picking in the top 10 of the draft, and Shedeur Sanders is absolutely going to be a top 10 pick. So I could say Shedeur, I could say Carson Beck, I don't know how likely it is. Now, you can move mountains to get into the top 10. We've seen it before. We've seen Buffalo do it. We've seen the Chiefs do it, and they don't regret it. But it's not easy to do so. So then you're in, like, the veteran market. It's like you got to go maybe make a trade for Kirk Cousins to replace Dak Prescott. That's basically the same quarterback. So who are you going to get? And there's not a great option out there. So I look at it and I go, the Cowboys will probably give Dak the deal that he wants, but does Dak want to stay in Dallas? And Stu, I don't know how you feel about this. I'll get your thoughts on this, on your opinion right now. Let me put you in the shoes of Dak Prescott. Stu has left the show. Stu is now the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. He is number 4, Dak Prescott. You're in the final year of the deal. Dallas is not giving you a deal before week 1 of the season. What do you want to do? Take me to the end of the Cowboys season. It's not going to end in an NFC championship game. It's not going to end in a Super Bowl. Even if they make the playoffs and lose early, what would you do? You're Dak. With what has happened this offseason, the Cowboys have not got better. If Jerry Jones offers you what you want, let's say it's $60 million a year and it's a 4-year contract, you staying in Dallas or are you going elsewhere?
I am going elsewhere. I just think it's time. I think he's kind of reached the ceiling at Dallas. I don't think they're ever going to really be a Super Bowl contender with him as their quarterback. I think if I'm Dak, I go somewhere else. There's a few possible destinations out there that need a quarterback, and I think he'd be better off getting out of Dallas.
So the possible destinations, I saw Mike Florio, the man behind Pro Football Talk, put 7 of them out today. He put 7 potential destinations. You tell me if you think this is a realistic destination or an unrealistic destination. You want me to give them to you 7-1 or 1-7?
Go 7-1.
Okay. The LA Rams for Dak Prescott next year. Florio says there are plenty of indications this could be Matthew Stafford's last season in LA. The Rams might need a replacement in 2024.
I like it. I think, again, not knowing the cap situation and what kind of gymnastics would need to be performed, but just on the surface, him and McVay together replacing Stafford, I like it.
I think it's unrealistic. Now, if Stafford retires, it's realistic.
Right.
And heck, Dak Prescott, you'd be a fool to not join the Rams. You have Sean McVay. You would have Cooper Kupp. You would have Puka Nacua. You would have Kyron Williams. And I'll even throw Blake Corum in the mix on the offensive side of the ball. Be foolish not to go there. Your weapons in Dallas right now, CeeDee Lamb. What else do you got? Brandon Cook's nice player. Brandon Cook's underrated wide receiver. But he is not Cooper Kupp. And he's not Puka Nacua. So I just don't think, barring the Rams winning a Super Bowl this year, I think Stafford's going to play another season. I do. So that's why I think it's unrealistic, because I don't really envision Matthew Stafford retiring after this year. All righty, in at number 6, Seattle.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the first 2 that I thought of. And again, Geno Smith's a nice quarterback, but he would be such an upgrade over Geno Smith. And
look at it for Dak, too. You got Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Metcalf.
DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett. I don't know if they have to trade one of those guys because you bring in Dak and you're going to have to pay him a ridiculous price. And you got Kenneth Walker, who's a really good running back going back to his time at Michigan State. That's a great destination.
Yeah, it's very good.
If I'm Dak, that's actually destination number 1. Now, I know what the other 5 are that I haven't named yet. That would be destination number 1. You stay in the NFC, and when I mean destination, ones that are realistic. I don't think the Rams are realistic. Hey, if you tell me you go to the Rams or the Seahawks, I'd rather go to the Rams. But out of the realistic destinations, I would say Seattle is number 1. All righty, and at number 5, oh boy. I don't know how they'd be able to afford this, because you'd be getting rid of Derek Carr, and then you got a cap hit, I'm assuming. The Saints. Florio threw the Saints in there. You think that's realistic or unrealistic?
Probably unrealistic. I don't know what the appeal would be. I mean, Chris Olave is a nice player, so okay.
Still have Kamara there.
Still have Kamara. Easier division, I guess, maybe. But I don't know. I
playing a dome, but I know you're
Yeah.
already playing indoors in Jerry's world. But
at that point, I'd stay in Dallas. So I think that's an unrealistic one.
I would too. I don't think the Saints, to your point, are attractive enough for Dak Prescott to leave the Dallas Cowboys. And Florio said Dak did grow up in Louisiana, so this is one to watch, especially if Carr and the Saints don't make the postseason this year. Well, the Saints are not going to make the postseason because Derek Carr's their quarterback. You got to throw out names. That one I think is unrealistic because I don't think Dak would go there. Alrighty, 4. How about this one? I threw this out a few years ago. It's now getting thrown out there again. Really good franchise. They are not a great team anymore, but they do need a better quarterback, and they have enough weapons, and they have a good coach. Pittsburgh Steelers. He says between Russell Wilson, Florio, and Justin Fields, most assume that one will be winning a water pick and the other will be getting fired after 2024. So that's what Florio said. So the Steelers could choose to fire both depending on what happens this year. They cleared out the quarterback depth chart after a playoff berth in 2023. They could do it again. And also, Russell Wilson, they owe nothing to him. And you basically owe Justin Fields nothing
Yeah, same
as
with Fields.
well. So because all that dead cap money was on the Broncos tab for Russ.
I'm struggling to get there with the Steelers. It's just one of those things where I just don't see it. I don't know why. I just don't see the fit.
The
like
Steelers
I do.
are kind of stuck in the worst place you could be in. You're not great, but you're not bad. So you're just good. You'll be in the playoffs, but there's no expectation. And by the time you finally get that quarterback, all the guys you have, or most of the guys that you have, are going to be older. So it's like, how many of those guys are still going to be really good or elite? Like Pickens is a great young receiver in this league. Jalen Moore and Najee Harris are solid, but Harris, they just declined his fifth-year option, and that offensive line still hasn't got better. All righty. Number 3. Raiders. The Raiders missed out on one of the 6 first-round quarterbacks picked in 2024, Florio says. They're rolling the dice with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Good pun. If it doesn't work, Dak becomes an obvious option for 2025. Of course, Dak would have to want to jump into a division that includes Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Bo Nix if he ends up being a keeper. But the Raiders, barring a playoff berth in 2024, could be an option.
Well, they're not making the playoffs. It's another case where, like, if I'm Dak, why would I go to the Raiders, which are in that tough division? I would think Devontae is probably gone after this year, but maybe if he knows Dak is coming, that he stays.
I would stay
maybe.
if I'm Devontae.
So that obviously changes it. They're going to have a lot of money to play with. They're going to have a quarterback opening, whether it's signing someone or drafting someone, you would think. Again, I just think there are better options for him, but
I think it's realistic, though.
I think it's realistic.
Because they'll throw the money at him.
They'll definitely throw the money at him. And look, I think he'd be a great upgrade. He'd be the best quarterback they've had since Gannon.
So you said the Raiders are definitely missing the playoffs. No one's going to crush you for that.
Yeah.
How dreadful are they going to be, though?
I don't think they're bottom 5, but I think they're pretty close to that. I think they're in that 6 to 9. They're probably picking 6 to 9 next year. They probably win 6 games, something like that, 6 and 11.
All righty. Let's see what the schedule is. Just give me win or loss here.
Yeah,
with the Raiders.
it's tough, yeah.
At the Chargers. Herbert back, by the way.
I know. I say loss.
At the Ravens.
Definitely loss.
Panthers.
Win.
Okay, so there's one win. Cleveland Browns.
Loss.
At Denver.
Win.
That's a big game for you. You and Gallo.
It is. Always is a big game.
Steelers.
Loss.
Get a little scouting of maybe Russell Wilson for you guys next year.
Oh, jeez.
At the Rams.
Loss.
Kansas City.
Loss.
At the Bengals.
Loss.
Bye week. I would say you can't lose the bye week, but the Raiders have showed before they
Yep.
can lose the bye week, unfortunately. At Miami.
Loss.
Through 11 weeks, you only have 2 wins.
The schedule is very hard.
You had Carolina
and Denver.
And Denver.
You
All
could
right.
convince me on Pittsburgh, maybe, but I don't know.
But you said no.
I said no.
Denver.
Win.
Oh, sweeping Denver.
They'll take both from Denver, I think, yeah.
Whoa.
Famous last words.
At Kansas City.
Loss.
At Tampa Bay.
Is it a 1 o'clock game?
1 o'clock game.
I hate those. I feel like they never win those, but I'll say win.
Hey, Stu, tickets right now are as low as $63.
What? There you go.
Take the girlfriend down south a little
Down
bit.
to
Go
Tampa,
to Florida.
yeah, maybe.
Fire the cannon. You said loss?
I said win.
Oh, you said win?
Yeah, 4.
Oh, so that's 4. Okay. Atlanta, Monday Night Football.
Loss.
Mm-hmm. By the way, if you want to go there, oh, sorry, that game is at the Raiders. I was going to say if that game was in Atlanta, that's one of the few days where there's an NFL game and they have the Chick-fil-A open because it's not on Sunday.
Ooh.
So, okay, you got 4 wins so far, right?
Yep.
Jacksonville.
It's tough. Is that home or away?
That is a home game.
I'll say win.
Okay, so 5 wins. All righty. Is Derek Carr playing Week 17?
Yes.
When you go into New Orleans?
Yes.
No Spencer Rattler?
No, I think it'll still be Carr.
Okay.
Win.
Ooh. So that's 6. Chargers.
Loss.
Okay, so 6 wins. You're in striking distance then to draft a quarterback.
Definitely.
And also, like, teams always need quarterbacks in the draft. But, like, there's 6 teams just took quarterbacks in the first round. So it's not going to be usually as rich as it usually is with teams looking to go get quarterbacks early in the first round. 6 wins right there. That's in the top 10. It's like the Patriots won't be picking a quarterback. The Dolphins won't be picking a quarterback. The Bills won't be picking a quarterback. Ravens not. Like, potentially the Jets, but I don't think the Jets are going to be bad. It's just if Rodgers retires or not. Bengals won't be bad enough. The Browns won't be picking a quarterback. Steelers can, but I don't think the Steelers are going to have fewer wins than the Raiders. Jaguars won't be. Tennessee could be. That's a team. Houston won't. Colts probably no. Broncos won't. Chargers won't. Chiefs won't. Eagles no. Giants will be. That's a team that you could be battling against. Commanders no. Cowboys may if Dak leaves, but the Cowboys aren't going to be worse than the Raiders. Bears no. Vikings no. Packers no. Lions no. Bucks potentially, but I don't think the Bucks are going to be all that bad. Now, Baker, they also just re-signed them, so probably a no. Saints, yes. That's a team to watch. Panthers, no. Falcons, no. Rams, Stafford goes, but they're not going to be bad. Seahawks, same thing. Niners, no. And the Cardinals, no. Teams that are going to need quarterbacks. You could get your quarterback, the Raiders, Shador Sanders or Carson Beck. You're in range for that.
Yeah, and if they have to trade up a couple picks, they could probably do that as well.
Okay. Now, when we get to the 2 other teams that Florio threw out there for Dak Prescott. So far, it was the Rams, it was the Seahawks, the Saints, and the Steelers and the Raiders. The Jets. You think that's realistic or unrealistic?
I do. If Rodgers retires, I think it's realistic.
Especially with a good team, too.
Yeah, a lot of talent, great defense, weapons, really good running back, really good receiver. I think that's realistic.
That's a good topic if we were doing New York radio. Is Dak more likely to join the Jets or the Giants next year? Because that's number 1.
Oh, Giants won.
It's the Giants that Florio threw out there.
They definitely are probably going to need a quarterback as well.
And we had Pat Leonard on, who covers the Giants, and Pat said that Joe Shane would be a GM that would be willing to throw out big money at the quarterback position. So Giants, I think, are realistic. Jets, I think, are realistic only if Rodgers retires. Raiders, yes. Steelers, I think it's... I have a tough time envisioning him on the Steelers, but I think it's possible. Saints, no. Seahawks, yes. And Rams, I don't think Stafford's retiring. So that's how I kind of look at Floria's list for the Dak Prescott destinations. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The biggest story in the NFL entering this season, the Kansas City Chiefs trying to three-peat. When we come on back, Stu and I will do a draft of 5 teams each, so 10 teams total. Who has the best chance to slay the Chiefs this season and go either take them down in the postseason to advance to a Super Bowl or maybe beat them in a Super Bowl to prevent the Chiefs from three-peating? But first, football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 players' stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use my promo code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. You must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. Got 40 minutes to play on the day before the NFL season starts. Tomorrow, Chiefs and Ravens. That's an enormous, and I mean an enormous, Week 1 game and an opening game to the season. Then you get it followed up with a little Eagles and Packers on Friday, which is also going to be awesome. And then you got the big Sunday slate. You know, it's funny. The first two games are so good that they're so impressive that, like, you almost even forget to look at the Sunday slate. You got Steelers and the Falcons, you know, fine game. Cardinals, Bills, intriguing because of the quarterbacks, but I wouldn't say it's like those first two games aren't wow games. Like Green Bay, Philadelphia, wow. Baltimore, Kansas City, wow. What's the wow game on the Sunday docket? I know what it is. It's Sunday night. But Tennessee, Chicago, not a wow. New England, Cincinnati, not a wow. Houston, Indianapolis, solid. Jacksonville, Miami, solid. Carolina, New Orleans, no. Minnesota, Giants, no. Raiders, Chargers, not a wow. Denver and Seattle. If Russell Wilson was still involved, sure, but now he's not, so no. Dallas, Cleveland, good game. I wouldn't say it's a wow game, though. Commanders, Tampa Bay, fine. Debut of Daniels. Bucks were good last year. Second round of playoffs. The wow game is Chargers and Lions. You know, Rams and Lions. That's the wow game. I always do that whenever I see LA now.
The logos look exactly the same.
They're so. At least on ESPN they do like the lightning bolt for the Chargers. But I remember when the schedules came out in 2020, and I was doing the show from home. I was revealing the schedules, and I kept on saying Rams when it was the Chargers and Chargers when it was the Rams. And then on Monday, you get Jets and Niners. So you have 4 wow games on the Week 1 docket. That's pretty damn good for a Week 1. And not just like I'm talking Kobe White, wow, 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 wow. Ravens and Chiefs is wow, 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 wow. Packers and Eagles, wow, 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 wow. You know, that's crazy, bro. Wow. Lions hosting the Rams, and then the Jets and the 49ers isolated spot. So the Sunday slate isn't great, but it makes up for it when you have the Thursday and Friday game, the Sunday night game, and then what is cooking on Monday night. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu, give me a little NFL music, please. All righty, we will do a draft here, and the draft will be the team that will prevent the Kansas City Chiefs from three-peating. So there's 2 different strategies. You could load up on the AFC, or you could just say, okay, Chiefs are getting the Super Bowl. No one can beat them in the AFC when it matters, and then I'll just put my eggs in the basket of an NFC team. Stu, I'm in a good mood today. You've done a tremendous job in some tough circumstances running the show this entirety of the summer, so I'll let you go first. Has nothing to do with that I just want picks 2 and 3 on the snake. No. You know, it's just out of the kindness of my heart, me being a benevolent person.
All right, yeah, there's a few options here, but I will go with the 49ers. I still think they're the best team in the NFC, and I think they've gone to the Super Bowl multiple times. I think this might be the year that they finally get to the Super Bowl and beat either the Chiefs or whoever makes it from the AFC, probably the Chiefs, though. I'll go to 49ers.
Yeah, it's got to just be so demoralizing. They've been there twice with 10-point leads. You would think one time you'd be able to defeat Kansas City, but that's why Mahomes is Mahomes. All right, so I have my first of 2 picks here, back-to-back. I will take the Bengals. I know I'm hoping that Joe Burrow is healthy, but when Joe Burrow is healthy, he's the guy that has defeated Mahomes when it's mattered in an AFC championship game. They at one point had a 3-game winning streak up against the Chiefs, so I will go with the Bengals. The next team, I'll stay where you were with your first team in the NFC. I will take... I'll go the Eagles. I really like the Lions this year, but I will go with the Eagles just because, once again, just like the Niners, they were up by 10 against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they have a loaded team, but they weren't able to slam the door shut, so I will go with Philly. All righty, give me your first of 2 picks as well as we snake back around.
Okay, I'll go with another team similar to the Niners that it's just they just can't get over the hump, and they are an AFC team. They
go 2 options here. There's 2 teams you can think of here.
You're right. I'm going with the Ravens, though. I think the Ravens, you add Henry to the fold. I just think that might be the game changer. We'll see. It's tough, but I think the Ravens are still in that conversation with the Chiefs in the AFC.
Put it this way. We are at the point where it's Mahomes, where it was like Brady, where you could make a case of teams that you think could beat New England and teams now that you think could beat Kansas City. You don't feel great, though, about anyone because it doesn't matter. Just like what Brady did, Mahomes has done it too. It doesn't matter what the score is. The game is not out of reach. Like Mahomes has had some epic comebacks. The game against the Texans, even being down in the AFC Championship game, even though they're never going to lose it to the Bills and also to Tennessee. You know, they had the Bills come back in the divisional round. The Super Bowls, being down to the Niners by 10 twice, the Eagles by 10. There are really some miraculous comebacks by the great Patrick Mahomes. But you go with the Ravens. Who's the next team?
I'll stick in the AFC. I'll go with the Bills. I still think Josh Allen. I know they've lost a few guys.
Did I just give you the answer to that one?
No,
I mentioned the Bills?
I was between Bills and another team, which hopefully you won't pick, but maybe you will. I just think you have Josh Allen. I think they're still the best team in that AFC East. And if they get hot, they find the right mix, especially with some of these young receivers. I think they could pull it off. We'll see.
All right, so best chance of throwing the Chiefs. Stu takes the 49ers out of the gate. I then took the Bengals and the Eagles. Stu then goes with the Ravens and the Bills. I talked about this team earlier, and you didn't pick them. I'll take the Detroit Lions. They're right there. So I've gone 2 NFC teams, 1 AFC team. I have the Bengals, the Eagles, the Lions. Stu has the 49ers, the Ravens, and the Bills. All righty. I feel like I should stay in the NFC, but that means I have to get to the Super Bowl. So I will then flip to the AFC, and I will take a team that has the quarterback. And that's the biggest part here. You have to have the quarterback. I'll go with the Houston Texans. So I will take the Texans as my 4th team. You get 3 more picks, Stu. We will hear, or you have 2 more picks. Sorry, that was a Temple math there for a second because you've already made 3 picks. So I only took 1 math class in college. So you have 2 more picks, so let's hear one of them right now.
Okay, so one of the teams I was hoping you weren't going to take, and you did not take them because I think they can easily be the NFC representative this year in the Super Bowl, and I think that's the Packers. I'm just really big on them. They add Josh Jacobs to the mix. Jordan Love, building off that great second half. I think they have a very good chance to make a deep run this season.
Okay, I like that pick. I thought you were going to go with somebody else in the NFC, but you go with the go, Pack, go! All righty, final pick. What do you got?
All right, last pick. There's a couple teams I have in mind here, but I'm going to go with a team where you mentioned it a few minutes ago, having that quarterback. He's coming off the Achilles injury. He's older. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl caliber team, but could they beat the Chiefs in a division round or earlier? Who knows? But Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, I think they are a team that I could just envision.
They almost beat him last year with Zach Wilson in the regular season.
Yeah,
remember?
It's just so much talent on a team, and you have the quarterback if he's healthy. You never know. I'll go Jets.
All righty. Here's our teams I'm considering.
I have 3 left that I was considering, by the way.
I will consider the Jaguars in the AFC bouncing back. I feel like the Chargers is a long play. We need the Chargers to be good, so it's not the AFC East when the Patriots were in it. Now, I could say that because my team stinks. But, there needs to be a challenger. We can't have the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets when they have the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets, and the Patriots are having their dominant run. And you look at the coach and the quarterback, you would trust Herbert and also Jim Harbaugh, but I don't think it's this year. I'm actually going to go back into the well of the NFC. If the Rams are in the Super Bowl, that's tough. That's really, really, really tough for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, no Donald. Maybe Donald comes out of retirement, but that offense can compete with Kansas City when you got Stafford, you got Puka Nacua, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Kyron Williams, and now Blake Corum as well. Who are the teams that you were mentioning, by the way? Were the Rams one of them you were thinking?
The Rams were one of them. The other 2 were the Dolphins and the Falcons.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can't see Kirk Cousins.
Probably not, but when we're this deep, I think, you never know, lightning in the
Slim
bottle
pickings.
type of things. Yes.
And the Dolphins, see, I can't go with the Dolphins. It would not surprise me if the Dolphins miss the playoffs this year. I still think they'll be good, but you're going to have good teams missing the playoffs this year in the AFC. I just don't trust Tua. You look at last year, he had 2 opportunities to beat the Chiefs. And in Germany, couldn't get the job done late. And then in Kansas City, that game was outdoors, and that team was just ice cold in the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that's why I picked the Jets over them, because just the quarterback situation in the playoffs in the cold, I don't know. I don't trust that at all.
I'll tell you, if he could get back to being a top 7 or 8 quarterback, the Browns would be a good pick. Because they have a well-rounded team, but we haven't seen Deshaun Watson be really good since 2020. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So the draft of teams that could take down the Chiefs this year. Stu started off with the 49ers. I then took the Bengals and the Eagles. Stu then goes with the Ravens and the Bills, which led me to go with the Eagles and Lions. Oh, no, sorry, the Lions and Texans. And then I completely messed that up. See, I wrote your 5 teams and my 5 teams, and I was just trying to do that quickly. Where we do the snake, and I just lost my place. So let me redo this. Those last 5 seconds of radio just never happened. Some other hosts would just dump it and pretend like it never happened. I won't do that. So 49ers, Stu led it off. Then I took the Bengals and the Eagles. Boom. Stu then goes with the Ravens and the Bills. I then selected the Lions and the Texans. Stu then rocks and rolls with the Packers and the Jets. And I take the Rams in that final spot. Look at that. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, the top 5 best performances from college football coaches from this past week of week 1 in college ball. Update time here is the Ackman Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Patrick Surtain can go into the season with the security, the largest deal ever for a cornerback. 4 years, $96 million in total. Over $77 million is guaranteed. The Broncos also named Bo Nix as a captain, the first rookie to have that distinction since Floyd Little back in 1967. Bengals coach Zach Taylor said only we'll see when he was asked if Jamar Chase would play Sunday, but Chase did practice on a limited basis today, and quarterback Joe Burrow said he's good to go. The Chiefs, Marquise Hollywood Brown, not good to go. He's out for tomorrow due to a shoulder injury, while the Eagles' Devin White out for the season opener on Friday with an ankle injury. He didn't make the trip with the team to South America. And the Bills' Damar Hamlin will start Sunday against the Cardinals for the first time since the cardiac episode in January of 2023. Baseball today, right now, bottom of the 9th. The Blue Jays, down to their final out, trail the Phillies by a score of 4-2. JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber with home runs for the Phillies today. At the U.S. Open, Carolina Mukova moves on to the semifinals with a straight sets win, as does Jack Draper on the men's side. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back
All righty, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Adam in Colorado says, Zach, what did you think about the Pat Surtain, the second deal that was inked earlier today? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. So the Surtain deal was a 4-year contract worth $96 million. That's $24 million a year for Pat Surtain II. Definitely well worth it, and it's well deserved. He's the best player in the Denver Broncos. I know that's not saying much, but I do believe he's the best defensive back in the league. That's not a shot at Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is excellent. I just slightly prefer, like you're splitting hairs, Surtain or Sauce Gardner. I go with Pat Surtain II. Now, here's the crazy part about this. So he's the highest paid corner in NFL history still. But you look at where the game is going, right? Quarterbacks, ridiculous amount of money. Left tackles, ridiculous amount of money. But wide receivers have started to make a huge run. Like, we're talking about contracts that are like $30 million, $34, $35, $32 million a year for wide receivers. So there's two ways to combat a really good wide receiver, really good quarterback. Either you put the quarterback on his ass and then you're paying a big-time defensive end, or you're paying a lockdown corner. So $24 million a year is the highest for a corner in the league. How many wide receivers per year do you think are making more than the highest paid corner? Just wondering.
I think it's like a handful, isn't it? Isn't it like 4 or 5? Or is it even more than that?
I think you may need 2 hands.
So it's like
maybe
close to
3.
Really?
Let's see. Jay Jettis, 35. CeeDee Lamb, 34 a year. A.J. Brown, 32. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30. Tyreek Hill, 30. Brandon Ayuk, 30. So that's 6 right there.
Wow.
So I'm already on the second hand. I said Ayuk was the last name, right?
Yes.
Jalen Waddle, 28.25, 7. Devontae Adams, 28, 8. DJ Moore, 27.5, 9. Cooper Kupp, 26.7, 10. Devontae Smith, 25, 11. Nico Collins,
wow,
24.25, 12. And then DK Metcalf's at 24. So I think that's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 before you even get to the same number per year, which is DK Metcalf, who's at 13 at 24 a year. That's crazy.
It's insane. You would think there'd be more cornerbacks that are, because it makes sense, like, okay, maybe linebackers and running backs, like, it's a different game than it was 15, 20 years ago. But like you said, cornerbacks you would think would be at such a premium to combat receivers. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So the top 5 highest paid corners per year: Surtain at 24, Jair Alexander at 21, AJ Terrell of the Falcons. I love him. The Falcons have one of the best secondaries in the league at 20.25, Denzel Ward at 20.1, and then Jalen Ramsey in at 20. So Jair Alexander is at 21. 21, that's a second. So how many more do we get until the second highest paid corner just with wide receivers? 12 was Nico Collins. DK Metcalf is 13. That's 24. Deebo Samuel is 14. Michael Pittman Jr., 15. Terry McLaurin and Calvin Ridley. Stefon Diggs. T. Higgins, 21.861. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 wide receivers that are paid more than the second highest paid corner per year in the league. And you know that's going to get to 20 and probably 2021 shortly after that whenever CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase get their deals done. Whew. Mom, Dad, should I play corner or wide receiver? Wide receiver. Cha-ching. Travis Hunter, what are you going to do? Wide receiver or corner? Wide receiver. Look at that money. Holy smokes. Here is Champ Bailey when he joined us last week on August 29th talking about Pat Surtain II.
This kid is the best in the game right now. When he came out of college, I said he has a Pro Football Hall of Fame potential. That's the lofty goals I set for him because you look at his body type, his style of play, a technician, plays hard, loves the game. It's everything that you would want in a football player. Forget position. It's a football player. He is that. And now he's an elite corner with the way he plays the game.
There you go. So Champ Bailey thinks the sky's the limit for Pat Surtain II. We know he's paid like he's the best corner in the league. I think he is the best corner in the league. Sauce Gardner will eventually top that money because that's the way that it goes. And Sauce Gardner definitely has the case to be to make that he's the top corner in the league. But man, congratulations to Pat Surtain II. All righty. I'll give you my top 5 coaching performances from this past weekend in college football. I'll start with Lincoln Riley. He needed a win against LSU in the worst way. And he made the right hire at DC. The defense got better. You finally got rid of Grinch. They got rid of in season. And you got the right DC in there. And your team was close. You could have just as easily lost as easy as you won it. But you defeated Brian Kelly, and that was the biggest part. I know James Franklin probably doesn't get a ton of praise for the Penn State victory because it's more so on the offensive coordinator from Kansas, but Franklin made that hire. His defense had to replace Manny Diaz, made the right hire there as well so far. Penn State looks like a legitimate college football playoff team, and may I even say it, maybe they could even win a game in the college football playoff. Number 3, if you would have told me before week 1 that this guy would have a top 5 coaching performance, I would not have believed it. Now, guy's a very good coach. He did a nice job at Penn State for the 2 years he was there before Penn State basically made him no longer want to be there. And even though his tenure ended horribly with the Texans, and it was his own fault, he did make the playoffs a bunch of times. Bill O'Brien. Who had Bill O'Brien? Remember Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for Ohio State for about like 3 weeks? And then the BC job opened up. Family lives in the area because, right, he was the offensive coordinator a year ago for the Patriots. And then, boom, he takes the head coaching job at BC. A lot of people thought easy peasy bounce back spot. Great bounce back spot for Mike Norvell in Florida State after they lost their week 1 contest to Georgia Tech. Not the case. Bill O'Brien, with Castellanos as his quarterback, but more importantly, the offensive line in the run game, had 260-something yards on the ground. Bill O'Brien gets a huge victory for the BC program in week 1 up against Florida State. 2, Mario Cristobal. I like Mario Cristobal a lot. I was a fan of his when he was at FIU. He was a good football coach at Oregon. His best win right off the top of my cabeza was when he went into the big house, or it should be the horseshoe, and defeated Ohio State. That was a heck of a win on the road, too. And they dominated that game, and they were the much better team. With all those rumors about potentially going back to Miami, his school, he finally does so. Big litmus test game up against Florida. Which program's heading in the right direction? Both coaches enter this season on the hot seat. And that game, I thought it was going to be a ugly, low 20-point scoring contest, like in the low 20s, where one team would shoot itself in the foot at the end of the game, and that's why they would lose. Like, I didn't think you were going to walk away feeling good about either team. You walked away from that game feeling really damn good about Mario Cristobal and sensational about Cam Ward, who's, if you know his story, zero-star recruit, is one of the best stories, period, in college football. And college football, there's certain brands that, like, we wonder, are they back? Like Florida State the last 2 years looked like they were on their way back. Now this year we'll see if they could find a way to regroup. Texas, we've joked for years, are they back? Last year made the college football playoff. There's just certain schools that you joke, Florida's in that direction now. It's been a long time since they've been really damn good. But there's certain big brands that you go, okay, are they back? Miami, it's been that way for like 15, 20 years. Now, I'm not saying the U is back, right? But they at least took a step where we could have fun in that conversation with what they did, just smothering the Gators of Florida. And then here's another guy that I never thought we would probably have anything positive to say about his program this year. And he's a guy that definitely entered the season on the hot seat. And he's, been at that school now. This is his 4th season, but that's Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. 2-10, then 5-7, and 5 wins at Vanderbilt. It's like, holy smokes. And then it was 2-10 again. And then you start the year off against Virginia Tech, who I thought was going to be a really good team this year. Maybe they still will. We'll see if they could get back in my good graces, right? I know the quarterback was in and out of the game, but they had a big lead, then they lost the lead, and they still able to win the game in overtime. Clark Lee did just a phenomenal job for Vanderbilt in that one from this past Saturday. So Lincoln Riley, James Franklin, Billy O'Brien, Mario Cristobal, and Clark Lee are my top 5 coaching performances from week 1. All righty, that concludes a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will have the football season. I'm not talking college. We'll talk a lot of college. We'll talk some college tomorrow, but tomorrow's a big NFL show. We will do a full NFL preview show tomorrow. I'll give you my AFC playoff teams, my NFC playoff teams. I will give you my individual awards. I will give you my Super Bowl pick and who will win the Super Bowl. And also tomorrow, it's not a big announcement. It's a medium-sized announcement. I get some people saying, I heard you got a big announcement yesterday. I'm doing a little extra work in football season on Saturday and also on Sundays, briefly on Saturdays, and then a little bit longer on Sundays. I will make that announcement where you can listen to me in football season outside of this show, Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific. Coming up tomorrow, I'll tell you what I'm doing on Saturdays and Sundays. Stu, great job. Moist Mike, thank you as well. Ack, we appreciate it. Big thanks to his bad cell phone connection of Adam Grossbard. And also Hot Take Hickey for joining us in studio as he will each and every Wednesday in football season. We'll talk tomorrow with the NFL back. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.